In a small, tranquil town named Maplewood, two best friends, Emily and Sophie, were found brutally murdered in the woods behind their school. Emily and Sophie were inseparable, known for their shared love of reading, music, and nature. They were last seen leaving a local cafe one Friday afternoon, waving goodbye to friends as they headed toward the woods for a late hike. When they didn't return home that evening, their worried parents called the police. The search was frantic but brief. Their bodies were discovered the next morning, lying side by side under an old oak tree. Both girls had been strangled, their belongings scattered around them. The small town, which hadn't seen a serious crime in decades, was shaken. Detective James Turner, an experienced officer with a reputation for meticulousness, was brought in from the nearby city to lead the investigation. It became a high-profile case that quickly caught the media's attention, placing a sharp spotlight on Maplewood. Every detail of Emily and Sophie's lives was scrutinized as the days passed. Their social media accounts revealed what appeared to be a perfect friendship, devoid of the usual teenage drama. Friends and family described them as kind, outgoing girls with no known enemies. But after exhaustive interviews and interrogations, Detective Turner found one thread that seemed to stand out: a boy named Lucas Hale, Emily's ex-boyfriend. They had broken up several months earlier under murky circumstances, and there were rumors that he hadn't taken it well. Friends reported seeing Lucas hanging around Emily's usual haunts, as if hoping to get back together. Emily had brushed it off, assuring Sophie and her friends that he was just lonely and would move on eventually. Still, the police had to consider him a prime suspect. When Lucas was brought in for questioning, he denied any involvement. He admitted that he was upset about the breakup, but insisted he would never hurt Emily or anyone else. However, his alibi was shaky. He claimed he was home alone watching TV at the time of the murders, with no one to corroborate his story. To Detective Turner, Lucas's evasiveness and his lingering fixation on Emily raised red flags. The police seized his phone and computer, hoping to find any digital footprints that could link him to the crime scene. As the investigation continued, a new lead emerged that only deepened the mystery. Sophie had recently begun receiving anonymous messages. The texts were cryptic but unnerving, hinting that someone was always watching. Sophie had confided in Emily, and they'd both brushed it off as a prank. But when Detective Turner discovered the messages on Sophie's phone, he began to wonder if Lucas was more calculating than he'd originally seemed. Yet, despite their suspicions, forensic experts found no evidence to link him to the crime scene. Desperate for answers, Detective Turner combed through the girls' personal effects one last time. In Emily's notebook, he discovered a peculiar list of initials, dates, and times. At first, it appeared random, but after examining it closely, Turner noticed a pattern. The times matched Emily's after-school schedule, while the initials belonged to several of her classmates. It seemed Emily had been tracking someone's movements. The last few entries were particularly alarming. The initials were JW. Turner recalled a junior student named Jamie Whitaker, who had been questioned briefly early on in the investigation. Jamie was known to be a bit of a loner, often seen lingering around the school library. When Detective Turner interviewed him again, Jamie appeared nervous, and his answers were vague. Friends described Jamie as a quiet, awkward kid, but no one had ever pegged him as dangerous. Meanwhile, Maplewood's residents grew restless. They were eager for the police to make an arrest, and the pressure weighed heavily on Turner. A break came when DNA testing revealed a match. Hair found on Sophie's clothes belonged to Jamie Whitaker. Confronted with this evidence, Jamie eventually broke down and confessed to being in the woods that evening. He admitted he had been following the girls out of curiosity, but insisted he didn't harm them. He had simply left as soon as he saw they weren't alone. Turner was skeptical, but Jamie's tearful insistence hinted at a different truth. Then came the twist. Forensic analysis revealed another, unexpected finding. The DNA analysis detected a trace of a rare chemical compound on the girl's clothes, typically found in high-end paint products. Turner found this odd, as neither girl had any connection to paintwork. Further investigation revealed that this specific chemical was used by only one person in Maplewood, Detective Turner himself. Suddenly, the investigation took a chilling turn. Turner had a small art studio at home where he occasionally painted as a hobby. It seemed impossible that he could have any involvement, yet the evidence suggested otherwise. His colleagues, stunned and betrayed, decided to re-examine the case, focusing now on the detective himself. They reviewed surveillance footage and tracked his phone's location. What they found was damning. Turner's phone had pinged near the woods on the night of the murders. Under questioning, Turner initially denied everything. But as evidence mounted, a disturbing truth unraveled. Turner had, in fact, encountered the girls that evening by chance while taking a walk to clear his head. He'd seen Emily and Sophie sitting under the oak tree, laughing and chatting, a scene that reminded him painfully of his daughter, who had died in a tragic accident years before. In a moment of weakness, overwhelmed by grief and anger, Turner lost control. He confronted the girls, and in a fit of misplaced rage, he strangled them, projecting his suffering onto them in a tragic, twisted way. With this revelation, the small town of Maplewood was rocked once again, reeling from the betrayal of a man they had trusted to keep them safe. Turner was arrested and later sentenced to life in prison, a once-respected detective now branded as a murderer. The case of Emily and Sophie's deaths became infamous, not only for the tragedy of two innocent lives lost, but for the shocking realization that their killer had been hiding in plain sight, leading the investigation into his own crime. The twist left Maplewood forever haunted, a reminder that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones capable of the darkest acts.